Welcome to the Reacher Season 1 recap. Jack Reacher is the muscular retired military officer that gets off a bus in the small town of Margrave, recommended by his late brother and Secret Service agent Joe to explore the town that Blind Blake died at. The no-nonsense hobo hates domestic violence and loves black coffee, but before he is able to chomp down on his peach pie, he is arrested for first-degree murder. He is checked in by Officer Roscoe Culkin and interrogated by Detective Oscar Finlay. He was the only man fleeing from the scene of the crime. With only money and a toothbrush in his pants, he waives his right to a lawyer and finally speaks up about his innocence. He is placed in holding for the time being. They investigate a name and number found at the scene, leading them to Paul Hubble, a banker who, after recognizing a black truck roll by, confesses to the crime. They are placed in county jail to await lab results, where they are mistakenly placed in Gen Pop, and Jack is forced to fight off sets of gangs to protect himself and Hubble. They are released after Officer Roscoe brings up Jack's medallions for his service and years as a policeman. Interrupted at his beard shaving with Mosley, KJ warns him to watch his back. His plans with Roscoe for dinner are cut short. They found another body and Oscar forces him to come along to the morgue. His exceptional investigative detailing allows him to recognize that it is actually his brother Joe, and he realizes that his brother was trying to give him a subliminal message about Blind Blake. He vows to find them all and murder them one by one. Roscoe is made to trail Reacher, so he doesn't do anything to infringe on their operation. They go investigate Paul's wife, Charlene. Jack snoops around and they realize that Paul hasn't come home. He gets to his motel, harassed by hooligans. He sends them to the ER. The next day, another murder has taken place. Chief of Police Edward Morrison is nailed to the wall and his testicles cut off and fed to him. He heard of the execution method used by the perpetrators in prison when he was talking to Paul alone. They know that they can only trust each other and Finley. The next appointed Chief Teal will be under the perpetrator's thumb, and they suspect other crooked cops will be deterred to the test now. Oscar calls in his FBI friend, Agent Picard. Securing Charlene and the children without Paul in sight, they have to assume that he is dead. In the meantime, Reacher sets up a meeting with Spivey, the security guard that placed him in Gen Pop. He is ambushed by men working for the murderers, barely fending them off. He runs just in time as the police arrive. At the station, Roscoe helps perform first aid on his wounds, and they head off to a bar out of town so Reacher won't get recognized, to get drinks and dance the night away, stopping at a motel out of town because the pouring rain covered their path back. In the morning, they return to Roscoe's house, finding a warning that they will be back for them. Agitated, Roscoe gives Reacher what he's been begging for, a Desert Eagle, to be specific, their family heirloom. They drive out to meet with Oscar at the morgue. Results showed that the second victim was Pete Joblin, a trucker that got one ticket violation which was defended by Zacharias LLP. They receive a call from Molly Gordon, a Secret Services officer, which to her dismay discovers that Joe is actually dead. She agrees to retrieve them files on his case relating to a counterfeiting operation. They split off on separate tasks. Roscoe goes back to the station to distract Chief Teal from suspecting them. Reacher goes to meet with Zacharias LLP, torturing his way into Joblin's file correlating to Kleiner's office. Oscar breaks into Spivey's house, tracing outgoing calls to a Kleiner Industries. Meeting up with the crew, they agree to go interrogate Kleiner. Oscar infuriatingly demands that he will keep investigating Kleiner and his crooked cops. They are removed and Reacher advises him to pack and stay around motels because they are coming after him next. Roscoe is warned about Reacher murdering civilians in cold blood, only being pardoned by the state attorneys. Oscar conducts his own missions into Hubble's jobs. He had only worked there for 1 year as a banker and immediately left without a trace. Without anything to do, he rejects a woman at the bar. Reacher tries to track down Spivey, luring Venezuelan goons to following him and executing them. As he opens the trunk, he meets Spivey once more. They meet up with Oscar to get the serial number of Joe's burnt down car. Jack and Roscoe leave to dump the bodies in the car. He clarifies that the people weren't innocent. They abused kids in a war-torn country. Roscoe removes the plates and dumps them, leaving the car at the airport. They stay at a motel with a fake name when SS soldier Molly calls to inform them about her arrival the next day. With her is going to be Joe's case files. They then engage in horrendous sin in the steamy shower. The next day, they go interview Joblin's wife. He was a trucker that hauled air conditioners around the country. Meanwhile, Oscar is being lectured and warned not to keep investigating Kleiner. He receives a cryptic call from Picard for Jack and Roscoe to collect information on which motel Joe was staying at. Reclaiming the items, they find a list of names and numbers. Reviewing the note, one was Paul Hubble, two of them led to two separate professors. Joblin's garage, Gray's Kleiner files, and the the last calls the Environment Protection Agency, so he calls in his trusted friend, Neagley, a PI, to investigate. Whilst they go meet with Molly, they spot her at the bottom of the stairs. When they get down, all the papers in her suitcase are gone, and her body is disposed of as she dies in Reacher's arms. They leave the body for the police to find. Returning to the station, Reacher notices horse spray painted on Roscoe's truck, leading him to pursue KJ, Kleiner Jr., beating him and his friend senseless. Kleiner Sr. stops the fight, to which Roscoe receives a call from Teal, informing her that she is fired for disobeying orders. They search for Gray's Kleiner files, using the Desert Eagle box left for Roscoe, discovering the key and opening the box left at Mosey's barbershop. Gray didn't have any hair, but got a cut once every week. He was the chief of police and Roscoe's father figure that committed suicide. He was looking into the Kleiners case at the time, so they suspect foul play. They split off once again. Jack reconvenes with his PI friend Neagley, following the cop that found Gray's body on the day, Orcoin and his partner Rubidox, to a lead about a guy named the Viking that murders cops. On their drive back, Rubidox kills Orcoin and they trample the blockade, making him crash into the river. He drowns while they change clothes. Roscoe looks at the autopsy and examines the bump on Gray's head that they originally assumed he fell on something once he died, but it resembles more of a diamond. Furious, she rushes into the station and assaults Teal. She knows that he owns a diamond walking cane. Oscar rushes her out, knowing that they'll put a hit out on her for this, and sets her up in a motel out of town, pretending not to know where she is. He then sneaks into Kleiner Industries to probe more around why Kleiner buys so much feed for the cows, picking the locks to figure out that Kleiner is deceased. Jack notices the cut on Kleiner's throat to be a Venezuelan technique. They stake out a delivery truck that is in fact empty. Meanwhile, with nothing to do, Roscoe is given the liberty of watching the Hubels, as Picard is afraid he might lose his FBI position if he stays any longer. Night sets on. She spots a light in the forest, leading the family away. She is able to extinguish the two pursuers with bullets. Jack leaves Oscar to meet with Professor Castillo, as the other one has been murdered. She clarifies that she worked with Joe and the other professor on mass undetectable counterfeiting. Joe ensured that it could only occur in Fort Knox, and only one company is sold to, but he figured out that another place had been manufacturing bills too, in Georgia. He is informed that they buy so much cow feed because it is another agent that is able to wash the counterfeit cash. Warning the police, he entrusts Diaz to protect Professor Castillo. They reunite at the diner, where Charlene confirms that poor Hubel was an honest man until he got roped into the counterfeiting business. A man got crucifixed right in front of him, scaring him into doing it. Picard returns to keep them safe. Jack lures in the Kleiner murder squad by feeding information to a crooked cop named Jasper about how he is going to break into Hubble's place, manipulating them and slowly picking them off one by one until he finishes off Kleiner's cousin. He changes clothes and notices that the list ink is rubbing off. Oscar panics and calls Reacher after seeing men arrive at the motel for him. He instructs him to escape by breaking through the paper-thin walls and shooting out their tires. Judy Miller left town, the wife of Pete Jobling, and the burnt down house was probably them getting rid of evidence. He points out that the note has the apostrophe in front of the S, meaning plural Joblings, and Judy never took Pete's last name. They explore the Joblings' parents' house to find the same air conditioner boxes, but they are filled with counterfeit cash. They haul it back, happy they have finally found a breakthrough in the case. As they drive to meet Picard, Neagley calls to warn them about the Viking. He was an FBI agent and his partner was Picard, but they are already being held at gunpoint. KJ was behind the entire operation. His father didn't have the will to kill people, so he did, including Morrison, Jobling, and even Joe. They give him the last chance to survive. Picard will follow him to find Hubel. He has until 6 AM or they will murder Roscoe, Charlie, and the children. Jack convinces Picard to stop for a map and a solution to find Hubble. He orders a coffee, distracting him with it while he grabs a fork, stabbing it into the tire as they drive off. Miles into their drive, they stop to change the flat tire, but Reacher grabs for a gun and tricks Picard, shooting him and leaving him for dead. He meets Hubble in Augusta, deducting that he would be there because he didn't want to be far away from his family and could only use money to get away. Oscar is held in a cell as Jasper mocks him with a text. Reacher rams in, killing him slowly. Neagley meets up with them to get weapons and load up. They assume the kids will be held in a separate location from Roscoe and Charlie, so they will behave. Waiting outside as Reacher fills up a water jug with gasoline, Neagley snipes the two guards watching outside. Reacher silently stabs the last one checking on them, ultimately pouring gasoline into the building and reminding Hubel of his only mission to get the children out. Oscar wants to go out in a blaze of glory and takes his last puff of a cigarette and burning the counterfeit money inside. They sneak in through the fire escapes and slowly pick people off. Hubel gets his two children children out. Picard is still alive and Oscar kills him with a money press. When Roscoe is freed, she enacts revenge by shooting Teal, and finally, Reacher tosses KJ into boxes of fire, giving him 6-degree burns. He makes it out alive as explosions occur, kissing Roscoe and saving everyone. Reacher sets off to leave town, but first Roscoe gives him her number in case he passes by. She is thinking of running for mayor because the position is vacant. Oscar is going to move back to Boston and shares a peach pie that Reacher is finally able to eat. He then buries a medal given to him by his mother that was passed down by his grandfather for bravery in the place Joe was gunned down at, back on his way roaming the streets. This is where the series ends. For another happy ending, watch this.